Hello everyone, how are you doing? I hope that you are doing so very well. Today I am here to review Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. The first part of this is going to be a non-spoiler review and then there will be a spoilery discussion. So if you want to hear my thoughts about the book but with no spoilers, stick around, I'll tell you when the spoilers are coming. This is about a girl named Etta and she is a violinist and she is at this big concert and she's preparing for her debut. But on the night of this concert that she goes to, everything is turned upside down for her and she ends up thrust through this passage and finds out she is a time traveler. There's also another main character named Nicholas who is a sailor pirate person and he has been part of this traveler world for a while and he's kind of like jaded to it. He feels like he's been taken advantage of and that's pretty much what this book is about. This is kind of a lot of different genres. It's YA, it's historical fiction, it's also kind of fantasy. It's a mix of a lot of different things but it does them all pretty well. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. The world building was fantastic. I liked the plot for the most part. I liked the time travel aspect of it. It was really unique and fun and interesting. The characters were pretty great. They weren't like amazing, but they were pretty great. I had fun reading about them. Also, one thing that I want to mention is that Nicholas is black, so there is some racial conflict things that happen and that are discussed in this book, so that's something that I really enjoyed about it. The main thing I disliked about this book was that it took a lot for me to get into it. I kept waiting and waiting for things to pick up and I was like, alright, when's stuff gonna happen? About 150 pages in is where things got interesting, but it really took that long to give backstory, which is a negative for me, because if it's gonna take you like 150 pages to actually like get into the main story, and the book is only about 500 pages long, that's an issue. There's also a few other things I didn't like about it, but they're a little bit spoilery, so I'll be talking about those in the spoilery section. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Now we're gonna move into spoilers, so goodbye people who haven't read this book, bye. Come back when you've read it and we can talk some spoilers. And we're back. We're gonna put it with this guy right here. He's just gonna hold on to it for us. Beautiful. So world building was the main thing that I really liked about this book. The plot was interesting, but the world building was phenomenal. All the different places that Nicholas and Etta traveled to, I could just picture myself at all of those places. All the descriptions were so vivid and wonderful and I was like, yes, I am there with you. And that's really the strongest part of this book for me, is the world building. My traveler heart is like, yes, take me to all of those places. Also, if you didn't see my Snapchat, they go to New York City in 1776. So obviously I started singing Hamilton and I was probably singing Hamilton for the rest of the book even when it didn't apply. Yay Hamlet! The writing was a little bit back and forth for me. I liked it but I also didn't like it. The descriptions were really beautiful and flowy and great, but at the same time it felt like a lot of things were over described. Like I would be reading passages and I'd be like, alright, this is beautiful, but it's kind of redundant. The plot was something that I also really liked, even though it did take 150 pages to really get to the main plot. Once we got there, it was really interesting. We got mystery and travel and different time periods and like crazy stuff happening, and it was really cool, even though it was confusing and I was kind of like, okay, so like why is this happening? I don't know, but cool. So the plot was good, but not like amazing and really well explained. I liked the characters well enough. I didn't love them, but I liked them. I liked Etta a lot more as time went on, and I really liked Nicholas for the most part. Like I said, I really liked the fact that Nicholas struggled with different racial things through different time periods, and you saw his struggle with that. It was just really fabulous that that was a big part of this book as well. Then we've got Sophia, who is just really obnoxious and annoying, and I know she's gonna be a bigger part of the next book, but I just didn't really find her that interesting. I was like, okay, you're just kind of a bratty child. Awesome. Wow. But she didn't have a lot of purpose besides being an antagonist. She just served as a plot device, not as a really well-developed character. Then we've got Cyrus Ironwood, who is like the head of all of these travelers, and I didn't really find him that scary or intimidating. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, grandfather, Cyrus Ironwood, he's the worst. And then he's like a frail old man who does have a lot of power, admittedly, but he's a frail old man. And it was just like kind of lackluster, and I was like, I'm not scared of this guy. He's even threatening Etta with her mom's life, and I'm not scared of him. whatever. I really liked Alice even though she wasn't in the book a ton. I mean, we saw a lot more of her in the 1940s, but it was still lovely to have her, and she was even a stronger character than Sophia, and Sophia was in the book a little bit more. Alright, her mom. Her mom is simultaneously the worst and one of the most interesting characters in the book. She's the worst because she didn't tell Etta anything about anything, but at the same time I understand her reasoning. But the thing that annoyed me the most was she was like, I escaped Ironwood after one day, but I couldn't cross myself in timelines, so I couldn't come find you guys. What? No. Like, what about when they were in the temple and didn't see anybody, didn't see a blonde girl? She couldn't have crossed her path then? Also, they don't cross with Rose in the 1940s at all. Why? That part didn't make sense to me and felt like a cop-out, and I was like, can you explain that a little bit more? Like, Ironwood couldn't hold you, so you were really in no danger. There was really no point for this whole mission besides destroying the astrolabe, which doesn't actually get destroyed. Not buying that explanation. However, I am very interested in her whole backstory of like outsmarting Cyrus Ironwood and hiding the astrolabe and leaving this clue for Etta. That stuff was really interesting. Like, I'd be down for a prequel book just about that. One main thing that I didn't like about this book was the romance. The main one being that this is the worst case of insta-love I have ever read. If you've never heard the term insta-love, it means that characters basically meet and they're like in love. And there's no development of that relationship and they're just in love. Like, they first saw each other and immediately were like romance, and that's what they thought. And then Etta falls overboard and Nicholas saves her, but then later she's thinking about going back up top and she's like, I'm gonna defy Sophia. And then she says that she couldn't bring herself to ignore his wishes. Girl, you've known this guy like 5 seconds. He may have saved you, but that doesn't mean you have to respect his wishes. You don't know him. And then she goes in her room and is like, I'm gonna sleep with his jacket and think about him. Why? No. I really wanted to like the romance, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. There were parts that I was like, okay, I like this. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, you guys have known each other like 5 seconds. You can have immediate feelings for someone. It doesn't mean that your relationship needs to be immediate. And then there was that whole like tortured romance thing because Nicholas was like, oh my gosh, I want to tell her this thing, but I can't tell her and I'm the worst. But then he tells her and it's like super anticlimactic. She's like, well, I wish you would have told me earlier. And that's it. That's all that happened. So those like brooding sequences were all pointless. Another thing I thought was hilarious was when Etta was talking to him, was like, you know, that money that you got, you were gonna get a ship, weren't you? And Nicholas was just like so taken aback, like, you knew that I wanted a ship? Okay, most of the time that this girl has known you, you were the captain of a ship. It's not hard to make the connection that he wants to buy a ship. That just made me laugh. Let's talk about that freaking ending. What? She freaking disappeared into glitter. They don't know where she is and they have to go find her, and he has to use Sophia, who's an idiot. I think it's gonna be interesting to see where the story goes, and I see a lot of promise, but I'm also not looking forward to Nicholas and Sophia banter. I could do without that. I also hope it's dual perspective like it was this time, so we kind of get an idea of where Etta is. I hope she's not missing for like the majority of the book, because she kind of grew to be my favorite character, and I'd be really sad not to have her in the majority of the next book. So I feel like I've talked really negatively in this review, but I really did like the book. I really did like the plot, and I really loved the world building. Just some of the relational aspects were a little bit for me. If you've made it this far, obviously you've read the book, so let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to do the thing where you say spoiler at the top, enter down a bunch of times, and then say the spoiler so nobody actually sees the spoiler, but then other people who've read the book can click on it and see the spoiler. Just please be courteous of people in the comments who haven't read this book. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye. There's dogs barking, but I'm just gonna keep going. I watched it's kind of like debutante, but of classical music and instrumental things, and also by yourself with an orchestra. So why?